Ahead. So what's under door number 1? The 67 Beetle. And we're going to go ahead and fix up this wiring and make it work. We're going to show you guys how to do this a little bit. Hopefully you'll be able to learn something from this. So you guys doing your wiring. So we're going to run through some of the wiring here. First, we already know we have battery voltage, so we're not going to need to go through that. But we're going to do keyed ignition and some of the other things real quick. I'll show you how it works. So standard on your VW, you're going to have power on your furthest fuse over here on all the time. So we have power on all the time over here and no power at the bottom. I think all the fuses are removed right now. We're going to double check that real quick. That should be I think a 16 amp fuse on there. Oh, did you just twist it, Chris?
Yeah.
So we just twisted it. Now we have power here on both sides.
We're going to have to clean the fuse panel.
Yeah, we're going to have to clean the fuse panel. That's the number one thing on VW's. First thing you want to do is just clean everything. Clean the fuse panel. Take all your connections, wiggle them, take them on and off. Okay, this is how you normally would start with your wiring. Now if you don't have any if your wires are all disconnected, then what you need to do is you need to go to vintagebus.com. They have wire, just like a VW wiring diagram. If you see one from Vintage Bus, they'll show all the years and models for every car and bus all the way back. Most of the buses have the same wiring. This is a 67 Beetle, so it's more like the late models because it has more fuses. If you notice, there's what is there on these? I think there's 10 fuses on these, and the other ones are 8. I think on the earlier models, and then the other early ones had 4 and then 2, so it was actually 6 total. And then I think were they 6 on the other ones too, or just all 10s or 8s?
8s, and then 12s on the late models.
And then 12 on the really late models. So, but they're all pretty much wired the same. So, first thing we need to do is first check that hot side and see where we're at on that. So we've got power on both sides of that. So right now we got one running light and we've got one headlight. What do you have?
Right side's not working.
Right side turn isn't working in the back. Running light in the back. It was working. Is it just the fuse? It probably wiggle the fuse on that one. So we're gonna wiggle the fuse and check. He's gonna wiggle all the fuses. There's one for each tail light, and then typically those are where the issue is. Is it bad? Oh, you got it. You got it. Whatever you just did, it's on now. So we had a bad connection on the fuse panel, which is 99% of the problems with VWs. We're going to take a look around and find some of this stuff for you guys. Most of the time, we usually take the taillights off and check and make sure they always have bulbs. Sometimes they don't. You'll find out. You think you put it in there, you didn't. That's your number one mistake. So we usually take off all the covers when we're working on something, but this thing we know has worked before, so we're just kind of playing around with it first and just kind of look and see what we found. What I'm going to do is I'm going to check. So we got left side running light, right side running light. Where are those on here? Okay, give me the headlights. Headlights, and let's check. We got power at one of them. White, is that high beam or low beam? I got no power. Yeah, there's the low beams. What out? We actually, we have both low beams.
That's high beam.
Oh, it is? Okay.
That's high beam, low beam.
Low beam, we've got yellow, no power at the other yellow. So it's the type of thing you want to check with your test light. Use one of these. These ones from Harbor Freight are actually pretty good. So I've got no power at both sides of my white. So I'm going to guess. Go ahead and give me low beam again. Are we on low beam?
That's low beams.
That's actually, is it?
That's high beams.
Oh, both are. We have both low beams now. Okay, high beam. There we go. High beam is working. So when I just moved the connection here, that did it. So 90% of the time, all you need to do is just kind of wiggle the connections around. Best thing to do is take them off, actually sand them, each one, and clean it, and then put it back on, because then you know you've got a good connection. And make sure that the spade connector or the slip-on connector is actually crimped and not broken. Sometimes you take them off and they're actually broken. Okay, we have low beam, high beam. We have both now. I have everything. What about running lights? We got one. So I'm going to go ahead and take that bulb off over there and see if we got power to it. This one here was just wiggle the bulb, take the bulb out. Oh, here we go. It's still a little bit bad connection, so we're going to take it off and clean it, put it back in. If it's not very good, we have a brand new bulb for it too. Yeah. And the one thing we always, our trusty Tarnex, but make sure you rinse this off if you use this stuff.
Oh yeah.
So one of the ways you can fix this is you always keep your number 4 steel wool with you, have your power turned off, have everything turned off, and you can use steel wool on the connections, you know, by just doing this particular item, and that'll clean it out. That'll clean out the socket and the connections down below. No, it's still not working. We're still intermittent. So we've got like a, it's like, yeah, we might have to.
You do the shim method.
The bulb, yeah.
I do the cardboard shim method.
No. Bulb holders, like, well, it's what it is you know what it is, it's, you know where these things, where it is where these things hook, these things right here, where they hook underneath, the underside of that has a bad connection, you know, between, that's usually where it is. And so it doesn't always just connect from the side of the bulb, where that little bump is, where that thing pulls up against the socket, that's usually where it's kind of bad connection. So one of the ways, if you're like us and we could just use a piece of cardboard, we just jammed it in beside it just to keep the bulb tight. That works also. Eventually it'll start to get better connection as time goes on, after it gets running. Headlights on, running lights, headlights, high beam, low beam, and the relay's working. Bitchin'. No turn signals. No turn signals. We'll make those work. Oh, what about brake lights too? We have to check those. We're gonna have to use, well, on the brake lights, what we're gonna want to do is you want to test the wire that goes down there. What color is the wire that goes down there? Is it red? Red and black. Red and black. You want to make sure that your red and black's got power going down, and then that's your first test, and usually that's it. And then you have your actual brake light switch at your master cylinder. Check both sides of that to make sure that when your pedal is depressed, that you have power at both sides, and then go back, and then it comes back up, it goes through the turn signal switch and to the back, and then so you want to make sure that you have power at all those areas, and then usually it's just wiggling the tail lights, something like that usually. So we noticed that the hazards work. That's pretty amazing. 1967. It didn't work the other day when I tried it. We have all 4.
Yeah.
So we do know that our turn signal bulbs have continuity, which is great. Now we just got to find out. I think all we need is to get power to the turn signal switch, and it probably is where the issue is. So the power going into the turn signal switch, which has like the red, green, or no, it has white and green and black. That wire that has all the different colors on it, that's usually your turn signal switch hot. We'll check to see if we have power there. So we're testing around here, and the main thing with the turn signals is they all go through this magic box. And inside there, it is possible to clean the contacts, but you know, typically if you're going to take the thing apart, it's not going to be good. Not always. Sometimes you can fix them, but so well, we've kind of determined that the switch is there's something going on inside there. What we can do possibly is actually put in a two-prong switch, and then not use for, see, this thing kind of does both, right? This does turn signals and hazards inside here, and what we can do is actually take this same wire, the input wire for the turn signals, and then just put in a separate relay, two-prong relay, and then hook it up to somewhere on here where it's keyed power, and then you'd have that working. So that would solve the problem. In other words, we're just bypassing using this for the turn signals, but it'll work for the four-way flashers. So it might interfere sometimes if you had the four-way flashers on and the signals at the same time. It might create an issue, but without that, yeah, it'll probably work fine. So that's one of the ways you can get around that on your more creative way to fix wiring. So I'm going to show you guys, this is where your brake light wire is. It looks in something like this normally if it's the original car. So we need to test power on both sides of this real quick and see if we have power going into it. So I'm going to use the test light, which is what most of you guys will have. The power probe is really cool. If you learn how to use one, get one and read the instructions. They are really neat because they can actually power up things. Now, should it have power through it right now?
Should now, yeah. I'm on the brake.
I have nada coming out of here. So, what powers this thing?
Ignition.
Ignition power?
Whoa, check that.
Oh my God.
The radio.
The radio is working. It's trying to. Here, turn it. Oh my God. The radio works. Holy living shit. Wow. Let's check this out. Let's look at this. This is neat. Oh my God. The radio's working, dude. Oh my God. Oh, it has the one station that comes in. The Sapphire original radio has come to life. There you are. Dun, dun, dun. That is so cool. Is it keyed? No, it's on all the time. That's the way they were. There we are. Wow, that's cool. Radio works. Good news. I never expected that to go turn on. That is just too cool. So we're looking at one of the reasons. Oh, yeah. If you look here on the fuse block, this thing is toast. We could probably just pry one in there, huh? The if you see this little edge right here on the 15 is broke off, so that's when you need to replace your fuse holder. They actually sell them for most big rests, but it is kind of a pain to do. So we may just pry a fuse in there, and then just get it in there nice and good, and try to get a good contact on there as best we can, and work with that. I don't know. We'll figure that out as we go. Well, I think we figured out why the brake lights weren't working. Somebody did not connect them when they put the master cylinder in. Wasn't me, it came in the middle of it, but yeah, it's that simple. See? Disconnected. Alright, so we'll connect them up, probably work fine. So one of the things that happens a lot on these is the spade connectors or the slip-on connectors break, and that happened on the brake light switch. So of all places, it's difficult to change, but it's not hard. So as soon as we hooked up the wires, as soon as we hooked the fuse up for the brake lights, it blows immediately. So there's a process of elimination we've done, and what you want to do first is start eliminating things. We were checking here, and what you can do is you can disconnect. This is the wire to go to the back right here. This goes to the back of the car. See, this goes down and through the frame to the back. And so what we did is we disconnected here and tested. If we take this off, okay, there's no short. So we know it's between here and the back. Then what we do. So how do we have brake lights yet? Let's see. Yep, got both of them. Now we only have one of the brake light switches connected, but it does have brake lights at least. It has two brake light switches and they're hooked together in the front, and one of them is shorting out. But we also had that one bad wire that was across here. So now we've got brake lights, we got running lights, we got hazards. The only thing we do not have yet is turn signals, and that's because, see, here's the hazards in the back. We don't have the turn signals because we need to use an isolated relay. Alright, so what we ended up doing is we isolated this. We're just using this for just the four-way flashers, and we've added one of these here so that the turn signals are on their own just by using the wire that was connected to the here, okay, and went to here with it, and then ran the other side to the turn signals into the idiot, or the indicator light inside. So it's kind of a little bit complicated to explain, but anyway, that's what we ended up doing. If you have that problem, you can kind of think that one through and use this idea and fix yours. If you're having an issue with your four-way flashers working and your turn signals that don't work, you don't want to tear or replace this thing. This is the way you add this on the outside, and it isolates it and works fine. So anyway, that's it for the wiring. We got this thing, everything working now, and all the turn signals, headlights, high beams, low beams, and it's 67 only turn signal switch is kind of working pretty good, not too bad. Got a little bit of bad connection in there, but it could be taken apart and rebuilt. She knows how to wiggle it, So we're gonna check them all. There we go. Kind of have to do a little wiggling, and it works there. Works here. And this one works, but it doesn't want to stay. So 67 only. Those are, kind of a expensive item. So it's a little bit sticky, but it does work. So anyway, that's it for this. Talk to you guys in the next video. Hopefully you guys can get your project wired figured out. It's a little bit difficult if you start out. Remember, always start out with those wiring diagram, the colored wires and the numbers. And then where you're working on your wiring, especially if you have your key on for an amount of time, always disconnect your coil power right here so that you don't burn up your points. Little trick. All right, ready to go. Back on the road. All she's got to do is get her tags and fix the carburetor, and this thing is a runner. It's a daily driver again. So, talk to you next video. Please like, share, and subscribe.